I'm really glad I didn't have to do any extra work to get to those back bolts. That really would have been an absolute nightmare. I'm really glad that I didn't have any rust issues. Whew, man. Went smooth. Now I get to the bolts. On today's video, I started taking parts off my two-door Cherokee to put on my Chambler. We're going to start with the rear axle swap, which things escalated quickly, to say the least, which you'll see in this video. The next couple of videos on this vehicle will involve more of the two-door Cherokee, tearing it apart and getting all the components I need for this guy. Thanks for watching. Let me know what you want to see. Let's get to it. So after I got all the cars moved around last night, I realized that I have to take the axle out of that first and switch it with the axle in my two-door Cherokee, because I am parting it out to get the parts I need for that Rambler. Or should I say Chambler. So the goal for this morning is to get that turned around and pulled into the garage. Now it's in. All I have left to do is everything. Let's get the Cherokee up in the air and get the axle out. Just taking out the pinion bolt so I can drop the drive shaft. So far, so good. One cap off. That's both of them. Now I can pop the drive shaft out. Let's see how she comes out. Okay, not at all. Okay. Option 2. There we go. Oh, that's interesting. It has crush clamps on the bellows around the drive shaft at the transfer case. I'm likely going to have to cut those to get the shaft off. There's one here at the transfer case yoke. Hopefully I'm just going to be able to pop this one off and it should free it. I hope I don't have to take them both off. Ow. There we go. There's a better way to take these apart. And a lot of times you can reuse them. I don't know if you can reuse this style, but I know there's some styles you can. That was not the right way to do this. Let's see if it'll come out. And the answer is yes, thankfully. The plan right now is to pull the two belts out of these brackets that hold the parking brake cable on, drop the parking brake cable with the axle. I'm going to see if I can pull the bolts and pull the sway bar as a unit with the axle. I should hopefully be able to use it on the Chambler. All I have are male plugs. I thought I had female plugs. I need to go get a plug for the brake line so I can pull that and then pull the soft line off and take that with the axle as well. This is the rear shackle bracket. I might have to pull the hitch out to get access to this, or I might come up and pull the actual shackle with it. I don't know. It's going to depend on what access I have to it. Those upper shock bolts are just too far gone rust-wise, so I'm going to end up taking the shocks off at the axle. Let's see if we can get the sway bar link bolts off. Holy crap, I am very surprised. Three. See how the bottom one does. I am very happy and super duper surprised. I think this one is just spinning in the frame. I'll have to see if I can pry it out of there. Yeah, it's just spinning in the frame. I want to reuse these brackets because I should hopefully be able to use them for whatever I end up making on the Chambler. I need that bolt to come out. It's not even a 10 millimeter. I lost it. I'm gonna figure out another way of getting that out. Probably just have to cut it. Also, take the swibber off. I'm gonna have to pull the exhaust, which is fine. I'll take the cat in and recycle it and get the money for it because this thing's scrap anyway, and that'll help me fund the budget for this build. Before I cut the bolt for the sway bar bracket and the exhaust, I'm gonna go ahead and get everything else loose so I'm not sitting in a pile of cut shavings from all the metal residue. Let's take the parking brake bracket off. I'll be back in a second. Sorry, I had to knock the fastener head out of my socket. I'm gonna go ahead and cut the brake cable now. Should have cut it on the other side of the bracket, but I'll get to that in a minute, I guess. Yeah, that head broke as well. Oh, no, it rusted in half and then broke. Okay. Man, these cable cutters are getting dull. Let's get the other side lower shock mount. Nice, that smoke on the bolt. That is rust and crud. It's not heat, or not really, not much heat anyway. Let's see if we can pop the shock off. Yes, we can. Let's get the sway bar bracket out. There we go. Now let's get that exhaust. I struck out on finding a female plug for the brake line because apparently those don't exist in this state. Just gonna have to cut the line and plug it with a bolt. Now this makes for exciting TV. There we go. I'm gonna throw a hose clamp on it to try to help it stay, as it is dealing with a decent amount of pressure with the brake system. I'm gonna take the front bolts out of the leaf springs first. I have this on here for support in case it has any issues or in case it gets too tight, so I can take leverage off the bolt or pressure off the bolt. Once I get both the front ones off, I should be able to then work on the back a little bit easier. That's the plan anyway. Here we go. Well, that's not working. The bolt's getting frozen up in the bushing, so the impact is actually making it worse. So I'm getting small amounts of progress with the ratchet and breaker bars, so that's what I'm going to do. It only took pry bars, vice grips, channel locks, and a lot of patience, which I don't have. But it should come down now. Well, that was fun. I emptied 3 5-amp batteries, but I finally got the leaf spring bolt out for the driver's side front. After my experience trying to get the front leaf spring bolts out, I don't think I'm going to go after these. I'm going to go after the shackle bolts. What it means is I'm going to have to take the bolts out that retain the receiver hitch. It isn't going to be fun, but it should be easier than trying to get the bolts out that retain the spring. Well, that didn't exactly work like I'd hoped it was going to. This is going to be fun. Well, time to regroup. Well, my plan is to go ahead and take the last bolt off on the passenger side. I'm hoping maybe that the weight of the hitch hanging down will allow me to get the other bolts out without going drastic. It's probably not going to work, but I'll give it a shot. Let's see what happens. Oh boy. Yikes. I'm very glad I did not try to build this thing. It would have been bad. The frame is definitely tweaking and deforming under the load. It's actually the hitch that's bending, so this should be interesting. I pulled the bumper / fender cover off the passenger side rear, and yeah, this thing's toast. So I'm going to pull it off the other side and see what access I have. Maybe I can easily pull the rear bumper. Probably not. With as bad as this body is, I can probably just about tear this off. Or I can actually just tear it off. Not too worried about proper removal at this point. I'm really glad I didn't have to do any extra work to get to those back bolts. That really would have been an absolute nightmare. I'm really glad that I didn't have any rust issues. Whew, man. Went smooth. Now I can get to the bolts. I got the whole area cleaned up. Now let's make it dirty again. Smoking! Yeah, sorry, it's a bit 95. I'd expected the leaf spring to pop free the shackle and drop the axle, but guess not. That should help me get it out. I might have to finagle a little bit. I might have to drop the pinion. I might even have to raise the Jeep just a hair. See what happens. It only took me 2 days. There's a whole lot of pain in the butt, but it's out. Now we get to do it again on that thing. Fun. Rather than bore you to tears with watching me do something I've already done on this vehicle, I pulled and flipped the axle around in the first video. I'm gonna go ahead and pick it up once I start doing new work to it, which will be pulling the leaf spring bolts out of the front springs. I'm rapidly losing the light, so hopefully this goes smoothly. I do have the spring supported by a jack, so it should not come out and hurt me. Gently let the spring down. I'm going to leave it in place while I take the other one out. Hopefully keep any extra tension off of it. At least that's the goal. Hopefully this goes as smoothly. There's a captured nut on the other bracket. There's a regular nut on this one. Interesting. Regular nut. Let's see if we can get it out. We have removal. Well, that's going to be my stopping point for the evening. 2 axles out. Now I just have to flip-flop them. I'm going to try to get a good measurement from the spring eye mount here in the front to the rear. See what my length is from side to side. Like I said, I think the Chambler isn't lined up right, but the whole chassis might be off. So I might have to correct for things that I don't account for, because I don't want it to dog track, which is when the rear end basically looks like it's literally like a dog running down the road and it's tracking sideways. So you see the front of the car and the back end of the car at the same time, even though it's driving straight. These measurements are not going to be perfect. There's only so much I can do by myself. Plus, I don't really have a proper way to jig it and everything else. But this will definitely help. I'm going to take the measurements a couple times on both sides and get some numbers together. I'm glad I lined them both up together because it actually has these springs in there backwards. They should be like this with a heavier gauge at the front, lighter gauge spring eye at the rear. The springs on the old axle are about 3/4 of an inch shorter eye to eye than the springs on the newer axle from the 2-door. That probably won't make too much of a difference because the adjustability and the conversion parts that he used, but I'm still probably going to have to rearrange everything. The springs are designed to carry more weight towards the front of the spring, so putting them backwards would have made it ride very strange to start with. I'm not sure. They appear to be the same spring setup, so I'm not sure. I hate to keep saying I'm not sure, but this is just odd. I'm going to take some measurements of the Chambler and then I'll get everything moving around. I'm underneath the Chambler and it's not square. It's off quite a bit. From the front spring eye mount to the rear shackle on the driver's side is 49 inches. On the passenger side, it's 48 7/8 roughly. It's kind of hard to tell. Some of the holes are a little ovaled out or egged out or wallered out. The dimensions from the front spring eye mount for the leaf springs on the driver's side to the new one that he made is 10 inches. On the passenger side, it's 10 1/8. The dimensions for the rear shackle mount on the driver's side to the new one that he made is 8 inches. It's 7 15/16, 7 7/8 on the passenger side. The hole is a bit ovaled out, so it's hard to get a perfect measurement, but it's definitely not square. It does lead me to believe this whole car is not square, chassis to chassis. Takes more measurements, see if I can adjust for it. I don't expect it to be perfect. Worst case, I can adjust the rear, get that square. It really will depend on what I do with the frame when I try to square it up and then mount the body permanently to the chassis. At this point, I'm just going to get the rear axle into the Chambler for now. I'm pretty sure I know why he reversed these springs, because these larger spring eyes will not fit in these brackets. So I'm not sure what I'm going to do. I'm not flipping the springs. I don't know why he did this, because you can get replacement brackets of the original style. They could have welded them in back here. They're like 25 bucks a piece. I'm not sure. Everything I'm doing right now is temporary, so I'm going to equalize the sketch level that he did by doing some sketchy of my own, and I'm going to thread bolts into those lower eyes on both sides of the bracket that should have mounted this to the frame correctly on whatever vehicle it was originally from. I just need this to be able to move into my garage. That is the only thing this has to do. Thankfully, the rear shackle brackets are extendable, so I will just barely be able to make this work, I believe. This is not a drivable fix. This is not being done so this will go down the road. I'm gonna go ahead and move the shackle brackets now, get them out of my way, because it's gonna be harder to do it once I get everything in position. I'll get the other side, and then I'll move the springs into place. The driver's side shackle just fell right into place. Not gonna be so lucky with the passenger side. I'm gonna jack it up a little bit, throw the tires on it, pull the cart out from under it, and we'll see where we're at with those front shackle brackets. Again, this is only temporary, but I installed lift blocks in each spring eye in the front to hold the weight. The only place this is going to move is about 10 feet backwards, likely on go jacks, into my garage. I've got it up in the air. I'm going to pull the jack stands and we'll let it down. Kind of hard to tell, but it looks better. The wheelbase is a little bit better, but it's still completely wrong. But at least give me a better foundation to figure out where I'm at. I'm gonna have to pull everything out of the back end. I'm also likely gonna have to do a bunch of frame repairs as well, over and above the sheet metal to mount the body to the chassis. I was half tempted to go ahead and just turn the axle around so that the pinion would be put out the back, but I don't want it to damage the gas tank. I'm just gonna have to end up flipping the friggin' leaf springs, and I'll throw this back in and get it the heck out of my garage. Go in your hole. Leave them quite loose so I can hopefully get them into the mounting bracket pockets better. Go ahead and do the other side and we'll be back. Now let's see if I can get the spring eyes in the holes. I'm going to start the driver's side front, and then I'll get the springs into the shackles in the back. I'm going to lift the axle. That should allow me to get the leaf spring eye into these shackle brackets, because these suckers are stiff. Tighten the leaf spring mounting bolts and look at the shackle bolts. That's a real good indication you have a bad shock. I'm going to lift the axle up, pull the cart, get the tires on it, and get it the hell out of my garage. I know the four-wheel drive works now. The only casualty in the axle swap was my big pair of channel locks. I've broken a lot of stuff before, but this is a new one. I definitely didn't plan on having to do as much damage to the two-door as I did to get the components off that I need. It's probably going to keep escalating as I take more parts off, just because the vehicle's rusty, and that's why I didn't end up building it as a project, unfortunately. Let me know what you want to see. I just posted a video this week where I replied to a comment from another YouTuber, Miles to Go. He suggested a fix for my Comanche's idle issues, which worked out great. The video will likely be linked over here somewhere. Like, share, subscribe. Feel free to contact me. Let me know what you want. Thanks. Bye.